Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our first Jimmy Fun Walk virtual town hall. I hope everybody is doing well out there. I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy. My name is Zack Blackburn. I am the director of the Boston Marathon Jimmy Fun Walk. If I have yet to meet you formally in person, here is my virtual introduction. Looking forward to hopefully meeting you all in person very, very soon. We decided to have this virtual town hall as an opportunity to give some updates as to what's happening with the walk right now, what is happening within Dana-Farber, and then to be able to, probably most importantly, to let you get some questions answered as we're in this kind of, unprecedented time as to how we're going to get through, the next day, the next week, the next month, and kind of moving forward throughout the summer. So over the next 30 to 45 minutes, you're going to hear some updates, as I said, on the walk. We're very lucky to have one of our Dana-Farber frontline staff on the line as well, who's going to give you some updates as to what's happening within the walls of Dana-Farber. And then I will certainly be available to answer some questions. Many of you have submitted questions ahead of time. Also, if you have questions that come up throughout the next half hour, please just use the question and answer functionality in your webinar, and we will get those questions answered either in the time that we have. If we run out of time at the end of the 45 minutes at 12:45, we will make sure that we email you back directly with an answer to your question. This town hall is also being recorded. So an email will be sent out tomorrow with a link to the recording. If you want to either pass it on to somebody else to let them listen, or if you missed something and want to kind of check back in on it. I would also ask that you try to bear with us if there are any small technological snafus that come up over the next half hour. I know I've certainly been on many Zoom calls over the last 8 or 9 weeks where people have kind of frozen for a second and then talk really, really fast to catch up and all that. So if something like that happens, please just kind of bear with us as we're kind of working this all out for the first time. Before I dive into some overarching Dana-Farber updates and obviously specifically the walk updates, I wanted to introduce our very first guest speaker with you today. Tura Coombs is a nurse navigator in the head and neck oncology department here at Dana-Farber. Tura is currently in the office at Dana-Farber today, and she's on the front lines working every day to keep our patients safe and dealing with these challenges that have been presented to us over the last couple of months. She is going to give a quick update on some insight as to how her work has changed over the last 8 or 9 weeks and what we're doing right now to ensure the safety of our patients. And I think it's really appropriate that we're having Tura join us this week as it's Nurses Week. And so a big shout out to Tura and all of our nurses at Dana-Farber and all of our hospitals for the incredible work that they continue to do. So with saying that, I would like to formally introduce Tura and welcome her to our town hall. So Tura, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Zach, for the introduction and having me here today. And thank you to all the walkers for joining us. So my name is Tura. I'm a nurse navigator here with Head and Neck Oncology. And I walked for Team Head and Neck last year at the Jimmy Fun Walk. So our world at Dana-Farber definitely looks a little bit different these days. We're wearing masks and gowns when interacting with each other and with patients. We have health checks at the door, and we have to report no symptoms, when we come to campus. But our care for patients really has remained the same. Our role has definitely changed. We're used to be more face-to-face with patients and in patient rooms and their provider visits, but now it's more remote, and we're always just a phone call away and still able to maintain that relationship with our patients. We're the person who navigates our patients through cancer treatment with medication, symptom management, and any needs really along the way. With our recent no visitor policy, that really has impacted patients' experience with their team. We really make sure that they don't feel alone because they have us. And Holly and Michelle are 2 other navigators that I work with who are truly amazing. I feel really lucky to be a part of this team. From our schedulers, clinic assistants, infusion nurses, we couldn't do what we do without them. So it's a group I'm really grateful to be part of. We recently had a patient celebrating his 27th birthday, and Holly was able to coordinate with his fiance So we surprised him during infusion with a drive-by birthday celebration. Patients, families, and friends had balloons, posters that they held up, and it was really so special to be a part of. And I believe everyone will receive a link to that video so they can see that tomorrow. The teamwork I've witnessed has really been incredible, and we're here for you. We're smiling behind our masks, and we will get through this together. And I really want to thank you all for having me here today. And Zach, I'll get back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tura. I had just one, I guess, question that I guess I've been asking myself, or been waiting to try to ask somebody on the front lines every day. How do you feel kind of going into work every day? I know, I'm fortunate. I'm in my basement and I'm able to do the work that I do every day for Dana-Farber from the comfort of my home. But I'm curious to know, just for somebody that's there going in every day and the processes you have to go through every day, how do you feel when you go in? Does it feel somewhat normal by now? Does it feel really strange still? You feel safe? Do you feel comfortable? I guess, how are you feeling? How's that working right now?
I think, we're getting used to the new normal. I definitely miss working with my coworkers. Some of us are kind of remote and not working together as much as we used to. And, the hazards of coronavirus. But I definitely feel safe, and I'm grateful to be here, and I'm still able to help our patients and do, what I always wanted to do, and being a nurse. So it's been great. And I think everyone at Dana-Farber has been really working together to make sure that everyone feels safe and comfortable in their working environment. So it's been great.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Well, again, can't thank you enough. I know on the picture here, on your picture, it says, I'm a nurse, what's your superpower? And I love that. I just think it's so apropos right now. And you certainly are a superhero in our eyes right now. So thank you so much. Please send thanks to all of your colleagues and those that you see every day. And I know, Tura, if you have any questions for Tura towards the end, you can submit them via the Q&A as well, as she's been very gracious to stay on with us for this, for the duration of the call. And again, we will provide the link to the video from Boston 25 for the drive-by birthday celebration in the email tomorrow. So you can check that out if you haven't seen it as well. Just a couple of quick updates on what's new and kind of how you can help in this pandemic, kind of aside from your existing support if you're interested. Obviously, you've done an amazing job. You're registered for the walk. You're committing yourself to furthering our mission with your fundraising and with your participation. But there are some other things that have kind of popped up over the last 8 weeks or so, and I just wanted to kind of fill you in on that. And we've been really, really lucky. We have gotten such an outpouring of support from our constituents, asking what they can do, asking how they can help. I think it just shows the kind of the power and the reach of Dana-Farber and what it means to so many people. And you all are just the real essence of that. And without you all, there's no special sauce of Dana-Farber. And I think, it's just really, really heartening and a reflection of our culture to see. The first thing really quickly is we have established an emergency response fund for coronavirus relief. If you have receive any of our Dana-Farber emails, follow us on any sort of social media, you've probably heard of this already, but really what the emergency response fund is set to do is to ensure that our patients and their families are kept as safe as possible from transmission of this virus, throughout, for as long as we need to, and going further to help cover budgetary gaps that have been created by this pandemic, obviously, that was so unanticipated. The unanticipated, the significant cost of keeping everybody safe and to prevent infection is big, and patient safety has been and always will be the #1 priority at Dana-Farber. And that's not just throughout this pandemic, but it's prior to and going forward in perpetuity. So adding personal protective equipment, PPE, it's a real buzzword that you've heard time and time again over the last 8 or 9 weeks. That's expensive, but we're trying to continue to do that. We've had to add staffing to be put in place to make sure that we're able to cover any added needs from a staffing standpoint. Tura mentioned a little bit about doing remote and telemedicine when it comes to working with patients. And there's a big expense that has come into that. So allowing ourselves to be able to be technologically advanced to bring this telemedicine on such a short time frame, to go from seeing patients every day to immediately switching to that sort of technology has been expensive, but it's been really great, and it's been positive, and it's working. Within the first couple of weeks of implementing this, we scheduled thousands of visits. We certainly anticipate this virtual world is not going away anytime soon. So they will continue to need that growth. And then additionally, there has been, for those of you probably familiar with the Jimmy Fund, we kid around a little bit that we have Jimmy Fund season, and that is, spring and summer, where you see events like Radio Telethon and Scooper Bowl and Rally for the Jimmy Fund and the Walk and the Boston Marathon. And there's all these things that have either been postponed or canceled, again, pushed back later in the summer. So as that's happened, there's really been a funding gap that is typically money that we can somewhat rely on an annual basis, that now we're trying to figure out ways to kind of implement and supplant that gap in funding. So this emergency response fund has been a great source of revenue for that. And it's been really successful. And again, it's just a way for us to say thank you to anybody that has given thus far. And if you are interested in giving, you can certainly just visit Dana-Farber.org and see a link to donate to that. We really are just completely, again, I've said this a couple times already, but to Tura and everybody else is on the front line at Brigham and Women's and Children's and Dana-Farber, just how appreciative we are of the work that they continue to do. Being there every day. As I said, I'm very lucky. We're sitting here in our home, and I'm sitting here in my house. My daughter sounds like she's about to come through the ceiling, dancing around in the living room and having a good time. Others are not so fortunate, and they're having to go into work every day, or have been affected with potentially not, having been furloughed and things of that nature. So we feel very fortunate. We just want to again say thank you to all of you to continue, supporting us in every way you can. We've been home since about mid-March. I believe March 13th was the last day that we were at the office. And, I think it was kind of initially it was like, hey, we'll be home for 4 or 5 weeks and we'll get through this. And boy, how has that changed over the last 8 or 9 weeks, where we fully anticipate working remotely for as long as we need to, and so that our staff and the families of our staff can remain safe. Another way that people have asked that they can support is through donor blood donations and platelet donations at the Kraft Family Blood Center. The need for that remains as prevalent or even more prevalent than ever. If you're healthy and you're able to do that, we certainly encourage you to call there and make an appointment. They would love to hear from you. They would love to have, there is certainly a big need. Additionally, we have, if you're following on any sort of social media, you may have seen that we've started a Friday night bingo night, where we've done 2 of them so far. I believe our next one, we're taking this week off. Our next one is next Friday, May 15th. And we've been very fortunate to have Tom Layden of Boston 25 has hosted the first 2 bingos. It's been really, really cool to see. Also, even just from a walk perspective, I've been on the chats and on Facebook during them, and just to see the shout outs to different walk teams and specific walkers and patients and heroes, it's just been a really, really fun way to stay engaged with the Jimmy Fund and with our community. So I do encourage you, if you're available to do it next Friday, check it out on Facebook. You'll be able to see information on it. Boston Red Sox first baseman Mitch Moreland and his wife Susanna will be hosting the next bingo again on May 15th. And for a suggested $10 donation, you receive 3 bingo cards to play throughout the night. So again, it's just a really, really fun way to support the Jimmy Fund, but also really just to stay engaged and stay interactive with everybody that, everybody that's kind of in the same position as you are right now. Asked to continue to follow Jimmy Fund and Dana-Farber on social media. If you don't follow Jimmy Fund Walk, I would encourage you to follow us on Facebook as well. We'll continually have updates on things that we're doing, and kind of stay in touch with you as best that we can. And I think the last thing is people have asked a lot about, and this is kind of as we transition into some walk updates, is to continue with walk fundraising when you feel it is appropriate. And I think that's really an important message about that is, there's not going to be a specific day where we say, hey, now's the day to turn on your fundraising again, right? It is going to be very dependent upon each of you, your situation personally, your contacts, your family, your friends, your colleagues, people that you would normally reach out to. I think it's all dependent on that as well. There's no secret, kind of recipe to this. There's no science to it. It's feel. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the Q&A, I think, as well. But really, you need to be comfortable with what you can do. And we're here to help you with that. So I would encourage, if you have questions on when I should do this or how I should do this, that you reach out to your staff liaison, or simply just reach out to us at the Jimmy Fun Walk inbox at jimmyfunwalk at jimmyfunwalk@dfci.harvard.edu. And we'll have that link out in the email tomorrow as well. So quickly, I do want to talk about walk updates and what's happening, right? What's the plans for the walk itself? This is kind of like I guess a good news, not so good news, but trying to figure out still news. We don't have an official word on exactly what's going to happen. I'm just being completely upfront and honest with you. We are really right now looking at our different options. Okay. We have not officially changed any directive or any logistics for Jimmy Fun Walk Day on October 4th. Our number one intention and our full goal is to provide the Jimmy Fun Walk for you on October 4th. That is the priority, and that is what everything we're working on right now remains the same, is to provide that. And I can guarantee you that we will deliver on that promise. What I can't promise or guarantee at this point is exactly what that's going to look like. And I think that's a real question that many of you have, and that we have been asking ourselves for probably the last 6 or 7 weeks now. Again, I'll say completely transparently, when we left on March 13th and all of us on the walk team were saying bye to each other and stay safe and all that kind of good stuff, we thought, hey, we'll see each other in 4 or 5 weeks and we'll put this behind us and we'll be ready to roll, and, can't wait to do everything that we normally do on a walk year. I think it's pretty obvious that a lot of that has changed over the last 8 to 9 weeks. I think, I know certainly personally, my thinking and my feeling about how everything would transpire has completely shifted. And so now we're really trying to figure out what makes the most sense and what is viable and what is available for us to do. And we're still in a lot of the information gathering when it comes to that. But I want to make sure everybody knows how important it is for us that the number one driver in any decision that we make will be the safety and the health of not only our walkers, but our entire walk community. And that includes, again, like I said, walkers. It includes supporters of walkers. It includes patients' families. It includes those that you are caretakers for. It doesn't just begin and end with the 9,000 of you that are out there on walk day. Our volunteers, our sponsors, all of the entire community that comes in. The health and safety of everybody is paramount. We certainly recognize that there are a large segment of our community that is immunocompromised or may be immunocompromised in October. And we have to really make decisions that are going to be in the best interest of everybody. And really that's what we're looking at right now. And we're trying to figure out what is that going to kind of ultimately bear out. A lot of that is dependent on what happens from governmental agencies and things of that nature. But I think the primary easy kind of overall update is I think it's probably one of 3 things. I think one thing is the walk that you all know and love, that you've been a part of if you're an alumni walker that you see, or if you're a first-time walker, what you've maybe heard about. That's number 1. Number 2 is some sort of combination of a walk that you've seen that brings people into Boston, and then with a heavy virtual component to that. And what that virtual component is really still being fleshed out if that's a route that we need to go. And then the third option is a fully virtual Jimmy Fun Walk, where we don't have anything in Boston on October 4th, but we would create a virtual experience for everybody to participate in the best way that they can on that day as well. And so those are really the 3 options at this point. And I think as we start to get a little bit further in the calendar and we start to see, what's happening out there, I think quite honestly, the first option of a Jimmy Fun Walk, the way that you see it every single year and know and love, becomes the further we get out, becomes less of a a realistic option. And so I think we're really looking more at the other two. Again, the safety and the health of all of you and your family members and your friends and your donors and our volunteers and everybody around the walk. That will be the priority. So as we continue to look at that, just know that our commitment to you all remains as steadfast as it would be any other year. I think it's a really stressful time for all of us. Many of these stressors have nothing to do with the Jimmy Fun Walk, and we completely understand that. 99% of them don't. There's things that need to take precedent right now that you're dealing with, whether it's family, friends, jobs, finances, any of those things. And we just want you to know that we're here to support you as best we can. We're here to answer questions. We're here to listen. We're here to talk strategy. We're here to just simply say it's okay to wait for a little bit. Whatever makes you comfortable and whatever you want to talk about or work with us on, that's our kind of goal for you. And that's our promise, I guess, at this point would be maybe a good word to say. That's the expectation. You give us your all when you register for this walk, and you fundraise and you walk and you support us and you advocate for us. And part of our promise to you every year is to provide a top-notch walk event experience that we can, the best that we can every year. I can promise you that our promise to you on that end does not change one bit. It might look different. It might feel different for a year. It might, all of those things. But the feeling that you get from being a part of this and our kind of delivery of that to you hopefully remains constant. And that's really what we want to get out of this and let you all know that's our objective at this point in time. We will be having town hall meetings throughout the summer. I think I'm looking right now, there's 106 of you on the line, which is just incredible. So judging by the participation in this and the questions that have come in, we'd be silly to not continue to do this and update you all as we're moving forward in this decision process when we have a final decision, and then ultimately building out whatever that decision is over the next 3 or 4 months and using this as a nice way an opportunity for us to engage with our walkers even more. We've really, you can look at this one of two ways, and you can understand and just accept the position that we're in right now and then try to make the best of it. And that's what we're trying to do for you. I think there's real opportunity here for us to really stay engaged with each other while we're home, and continue to build those great relationships that we have. So I think our next town hall will probably sometime in the beginning of June. We'll continue to have guests in addition to myself, so that you can hear from some wonderful Dana-Farber connections and staff and clinicians that are doing so much, like Tura and her colleagues. So having said that, I think we're our need for funding, our need for participation remains as strong, if not stronger than ever. So we ask that you continue to just do what you've been doing, and lean on us for the support that you may need. And we're available via Zoom, we're available via phone, we're available via text, we're available via any means necessary, without breaking any sort of social guidelines, distancing and physical distancing guidelines that we can. We are working every day to provide you the best opportunity we can. I know we have some questions, and I want to make sure we leave some time. We're just shy of 12:30. We're right on time. So I wanted to turn it over. Jess is going to kind of read the questions, and I will do my best to answer them. Or if they're a question for Tura, she will do the same. So I will turn it over to, and I want to quickly say thank you to Jess and Sam Rose, who are behind the scenes today, making all this happen. Many of you know them, of course, Jess Hogan and Sam Rose. And also quickly just recognize the entire walk staff for their continued efforts to continue to bring you the best of what we can from a walk perspective. So kudos to everybody on the back end. And Jess, I will open it to you to ask the first question.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. So the first question we got from a registration form was, with so many people having been laid off and furloughed, it's a really hard time to ask for donations. What suggestions do you have?
It's a great question, and I think it's probably the question that we've gotten the most from walkers thus far. And I kind of hit on it a little bit at the beginning. there's no universal answer for everybody at this time, right? People are in different situations. People are being affected differently. Their family and friends have been affected differently. I think initially right now it's okay to take a break. It's okay to say now is not the time. We have had conversations with many walk teams and captains, and that's kind of been their feeling at this point is, I'm not comfortable right now fully making asks to donors the way I would in the past. And I think that's okay. I think what we need to do is really figure out a time frame that works best for everybody. And nobody knows your donors as intimately as you do. And I think that's the thing to really, normally we can say do X, Y, and Z, this, and this. And there's a way that okay, it gets done and you feel comfortable and, these are what the professionals are telling us. We're still there to do that for you. But I think we almost have to listen to you guys as much now too, right? And say, well, you tell me about how everything's going and then let's formulate an individual plan based on that. And I think it is really hard to say like a all-encompassing type of answer, but I think there are ways to be creative in your fundraising from a virtual standpoint that maybe allow people to give in different ways other than the way that they would have normally given. Some of that might not even be financially, or is there a way that somebody can support you by going on a walk, socially distant as 6 feet apart and all that kind of thing, wearing the mask, but is there a way that you can go on a walk with somebody and just kind of lend support? Is there a way that, again, donors can just call and be there for you? Can you take some of these virtual things that we're talking about and enact them in your fundraising? Can you do your own virtual bingo night where people are giving at smaller levels, but they're staying engaged? And then when the time is right, they're willing to support you kind of later on. I think what we want to do is very similar. You want to do this with your donors is how do we keep people as engaged as possible during this really, really difficult time? And this year in particular, just may be a little bit different. And we have to work with you all on that. And I think it's a very tough thing when somebody has been laid off or furloughed to just, I think when you care so much about these people that you're asking gifts for, it does make it a really difficult ask. And I think we have to make sure that you're comfortable, excuse me, and your donors are comfortable on that end. And if they're not, and if you don't get the sense that they are, then I think it's okay to take a break. And I just want to make sure that we stress that enough. So.
Awesome. So Zack, the next question we got, and we've been receiving this in the Q&A section as well, so thank you for submitting those, is has there been any consideration or thought put into lowering or removing the fundraising minimum for the 2020 walk?
Yeah, that's a great question, very valid. And I can tell you that in our process of trying to figure out, what is best for a walk day in general, that is probably the number one question that we've asked ourselves internally. I can tell you since we haven't really made a formal decision on what the event is going to look like, we haven't made a formal decision on how that would be answered. I can say, if we were to shift to a strictly virtual event, I think it's safe to say that there would be some sort of decline in the fundraising minimum required for the walk. What that would be at this point, I don't know. I can tell you that currently, virtual walkers register and they have $100 fundraising minimum as opposed to the $330 that our general walk population has. So is that a barometer to what it would look like? Potentially. I would say that if we do shift to a virtual walk, there will be components of this event that would not have happened in a normal year. So that needs expenses and things of that nature need to be considered. But yes, I think it is very fair to consider or to understand. We understand the situation that a lot of you are in right now, that a lot of your walkers are in right now, and this is an unusual year. So I would venture to say if that is what the decision is made, that there would be an adjustment in the fundraising minimum and potentially in the registration fee as well. Currently, right now, there is a discount code available or promo code available called United, UNITED, that allows for 50% off of your registration fee right now. So that's something that you can give to walkers. I also certainly understand that you might want to wait until we have a formal decision as to what the walk is going to look like before you go out and ask people to register. That makes complete sense. I understand that. And, we have seen the registration numbers really, really back off over the last 7 or 8 weeks. And I think that is only natural. I know personally, my own family team, I only have 2 people registered, myself and my daughter. We typically have a lot more by now. So I think that's a lot of that is happening everywhere, right? So our number one goal over the next few weeks is to get final answers on what is the event going to look like, and then how does that trickle down into answering that question of fundraising minimums, registration fees, and so many other things that go a part of the walk itself. So it's a great, great question. I would anticipate that by the time we have our next town hall, we will have final answers on all of those things.
Zach, the next question we got is, am I able to directly support the Emergency Response Fund?
Yes, great question. You can. I mentioned, obviously you can make a gift, a donation directly to the ERF if you would like to. You can do that simply by visiting the website, Dana-Farber.org. There's a link to it right there. But walk teams also, and many people know this, walk teams at times restrict fundraising to certain disease areas, doctors' funds, and things of that nature. You are able to restrict walk team fundraising to the ERF in 2020 if you'd like. So if you are interested in doing that, I would ask that you just reach out to your staff liaison. You should be able to make that happen. If you don't know who your staff liaison is, send an email to us at jimmyfundwalk at dfci.harvard.edu. And again, we'll send that link out in the email tomorrow.
Another question we got, Zach, and I know we are getting up on time, so we do have time to answer a few more, but was in regards to all the great swag that we have on Walk Day. So will I be able to get my shirt, my bib, and the other gear that I typically do if the walk goes virtual?
Yeah, no, that's another good one. Yeah, I think, one of the things that's most important to us is how do we continually differentiate ourselves and our relationships with you all from like a typical walk that you would do for any organization. And part of that is part of the swag, to be totally honest with you. And our goal is to, regardless of what the event will look like, is to be able to remain, to be able to have those things still available to you. The only kind of caveat that I would anticipate or potentially anticipate, I'm not sure it would even happen, is if there is a fully virtual event, there is obviously would probably not be any sort of like early check-in or all of those things where people can go and pick stuff up. So we just would have to create some challenges around how distribution for all of those things. Our goal would be anybody that registers would get a medal, everybody that registers would get a bib, everybody that registers would get a shirt, everybody that registers would get a hat in some sort of combination packet, along with the other things that really make the event special, like the I Walk For stickers and things like that, things that you see on Walk Day. Again, if we do have to go virtual, our hope and our goal is to provide an event that is going to feel as much of a Jimmy Fund Walk as possible. And all of those things are major parts of this, right? So we don't want people to kind of feel as though that's not being focused on. It absolutely is.
Another question we have here, Zach, is in regards to our pace setters and the pace setter levels, if we've given any consideration to shifting that, or what about the fundraising incentive program as well?
Yeah, yes, and yes would be answers to those. I think the pace setter levels, when we've talked about if this is a virtual event, or even if it's not, even the what we're dealing with right now, I think you're looking at a reduction in what those pace setter levels will look like this year. Again, things that we would really want to try to hammer out over the next, I would say 3 to 4 weeks at the most. But I think you can anticipate a lower threshold for each of our pace setter levels, starting at star pace setter, which is normally 1,500. And going up that ladder, I think you can anticipate each level having a reduction for this year. The registration, the fundraising incentive program typically falls in line with our pace setter levels once you get to that threshold. So any changes that are made in that pace setter level would be then implemented in the incentive program as well.
Awesome. And I think coming up on time, this may be our last question, and it's kind of an appropriate one to end on. As a longtime walker and something I look forward to every year, I'm nervous that this year's walk will be canceled. Are you considering this?
That's an easy one to answer. No, the walk will not be canceled. I can promise you that. The word canceled, the word postponed, really are not in the walk's vocabulary right now. I just don't see any situation where we do not create an event that you all are proud of, that we are proud of, and that your walkers and their friends and family and your donors are proud of. That is our number one goal. And again, in a safe manner. That those two things combined are our kind of guarantee to kind of leave with today. There will be a walk. It will be October 4th. What it looks like, we're figuring that out. And we should know all of those details in the next 3-4 weeks, I would guess. We don't want you all to just have to stand idly by right now, waiting for us to make a decision. We know the importance of time when it comes to building teams and fundraising and doing all those things that you need to do. So our goal is to have those final details delivered as soon as possible so that you can go out and do the wonderful things that you do every single year. But is it going to be canceled? I can emphatically say no. Cancer, as Tura so eloquently said, cancer doesn't get canceled, and treatment doesn't get canceled, and infusions don't get canceled. And, we have to continue to do everything that we do to support our patients and their families in this time more than ever. So we will not be canceled. We will move forward. We will get through this. We will get through this year. We will get through 2020. We will get through all of these questions that we have, and we'll do it together. And we'll be really, really proud on October 4th. And I think if one thing that this has kind of taught me in the virtual event world, if you will, if that's the route that we end up having to go down, or if not, is the event itself is really the icing on the cake, right? It's the cherry on top of the sundae. It's all of that. But the feelings, the euphoria, the work that you do going into it, that doesn't change regardless of where we are on October 4th. And I guess that's maybe a good way to answer this, to leave this question at bay is, hopefully all of you understand and feel the same way. I know I do. I'm actually really excited to figure out what we're going to do and to deliver that to you all and to be the support system that you guys need as we move forward in whatever capacity that is. But we will be there, and we will deliver a cherry on top of that sundae in one way, shape, or form. But let's make the sundae together, and let's kind of work on that together. Any other questions, Jess? Anything else? I know we've got like 2 minutes left or so.
Yeah, no, I think we're good. And additional questions that are coming in, we can certainly include them in the follow-up email with answers as well. So if we didn't get to it, we will send that in the email tomorrow.
Okay, great. And I would, I will reiterate that if you had a question that was asked that we didn't get to, I'm seeing like, kind of scroll box at the bottom of my screen that I know some questions have come up. We will answer every question. We know who's asked it. We will email you the answer to that question as best we can. We will include Q&A in the follow-up email tomorrow. But we want to keep everybody, we didn't want to extend it beyond the 45 minutes. I know I'm making my daughter lunch every day, and I'm assuming many of you guys are too. So you're working, or you're taking care of kids, or you're, taking care of other family members, or everybody is very, very busy at this time. So we want to make sure we stick to our time for you. I can't thank you enough for joining us today. Tura, thank you so much for joining us as well. I hope that this was informative. I hope this helped to answer some questions. And I hope you guys know that we'll continue to do things like this over the next 3 or 4 months leading up to Walk Day, again, regardless of what the walk entails. And I think this is something that hopefully this town hall can be something that we take with us beyond 2020 and making sure that we're continuously available to answer questions that you have. So having said that, again, thank you all so much for joining us. And please be on the lookout for that email tomorrow with the link to the story for the birthday party and having some additional questions answered as well. So hope everybody has a great rest of the day, and stay safe, stay healthy, get outside, go for a walk, and enjoy time with your family. So we will talk to you soon. Take care.